Hey, right on time. How's your day going?
Good, man. I've been bullshitting about the movie.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that movie. So somebody like you who's had mainstream success, but also been a counterculture icon, I'd have to imagine that other people want to do documentaries about you in the past.
No, nobody, maybe somebody talked about it, but it was never anything serious. My bass player saw this documentary about South by Southwest, saw me in it, and thought, "You're pretty good at talking about how great he is." And so, he had this idea, and it took him like 10 years. He had never made a movie before. He had, and I gave him free reign. I said, make it funny, make it short, and make the fans happy. Don't try to make civilians like Mojo, right? The guy, the big drunk crazy guy down front at every show. Make sure when he sees it, he's grinning ear to ear.
Right. And I think you've accomplished that. Were there a lot of difficulties with rights and obtaining old footage for this?
Not as much as you would think. A lot of things, I already owned. Somehow I was smart enough to say, like the MTV footage, I co-owned that, when we did it. So it wasn't nearly as difficult as you would think it would be. And all the songs I wrote, and I own my publishing and I own my masters. So that made all that a lot easier.
Wow, that's really surprising to hear that you co-own the MTV footage. I used to work at Viacom, and we always had difficulties with clearing stuff because the paperwork seemed to have been a little shoddy before, say, 2000. So how did you wind up owning that footage?
It had to do with when they approached me, I had a big list of demands of like 20 things. And that was one of them, and they agreed to it.
Wow.
Because I thought when I made a big list of demands to do the MTV spots, I thought that they would just say no. Sneaky bastards said yes, because the devil gets you into bed one way or the other.
So you and Don Henley have more in common than I thought, because the ruthless businessmen who own their stuff, whereas their contemporaries generally don't.
Yes, but that was just by chance.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And is there a lot of cutting room stuff related to the documentary? In other words, is it the kind of thing in making it for 10 years that there were so many hours done and you have to pare it down to an hour and a half to 2 hours?
Oh, yeah. No, I think he might have had 80 hours of tape, because this when we first went on tour in the mid 80s, that's when cable access shows were starting. Everybody but Jesus had a cable access show, and they would, and they'd come to the show, and I'd say, yeah, you can interview me, just send me a tape. And I had a box of over 100 VHS tapes of different things I had done, either music videos, live performances, interviews, so he had to transfer all that. Earl Freedom, my bass player, otherwise known as Mad Esky, that's his secret name. He had to transfer all that, onto digital and then figure out a way to edit it. I don't know if you know this. He's set for like 3 years and unedited. I tried to get him to, let somebody else do it. And then he finally Googled, how do you edit a movie? And there was some Apple program that you can buy that everybody says is the one you ought to use.
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
So your movie was made in iMovie?
Yes.
Okay, that is so charming and on brand for you, because usually film editors want to brag about how they have the latest and greatest software that no one has. And here you are, DIY punk rock on a laptop, presumably, and that's the documentary. And it looks fine.
Well, and also in the old days, you had to cut the film and everything. It was there was a certain talent to it. Anyone who can get, let's put this here, anyone can do it. And apparently anyone can do it. My bass player did
it. Well, hey, back to you. Of course, we hear you on SiriusXM. You've been a mainstay for what, 15, 20 years now on SiriusXM?
18 years.
18.
I have been on SiriusXM for 18. I haven't been fired. It's shocking. Some of this, I should have been fired. Something I said, right?
Well, among those credits, for a while, you're the GM on Howard 100. How did that one happen? Because you're not usually the go-to for who I think of the Howard Stern universe associated with.
No, it was that guy who was running the channel originally. What the hell was his name? I can't remember. Anyway, he approached, because Howard wasn't on yet. He had announced that they had the big parade, they were going over to Sirius, all that stuff. Hadn't announced, so they had the Howard 100, and they were just running kind of previews. And every now and then I would come on, and now a message from our general manager. And it was just crazy, psycho batshit.
Yeah.
And but then when Howard came on, they said, "Oh, we'd like for you to keep doing this." And I go, "Well, how much are you gonna pay me?" They go, "We ain't got no money for you. Howard done took all the money." So that's okay. I'm busy. Because at the time I was doing Outlaw Country weekdays, and then I have a show on the NASCAR channel, Manifold Destiny, every Monday night. And then I had a political talk show. I don't know if we can say this I had a political talk show called Lying Cocksuckers on Raw Dog Comedy.
Right.
That is apparently in permanent hiatus. They're paying me not to do it, which is apparently they're afraid of what I might say.
So at this point, 18 years into that, you've been semi-retired as a musician. I know Kinky brought you out of retirement indirectly, but you've also had success as an actor. So when I say Mojo Nixon, the subject of this documentary, musician, actor, radio host, etc., how do you like to be thought of at this point in time? Do you have an easy way to describe what you do if you're
Elvis had on his passport entertainer. That's how I see myself. Right. I'm not a great singer or songwriter. I really can't act. I can only play this character. But if you turn on, somebody says the red light is on, the monkey will perform. Right. I'm here to entertain. And I tried to act, and I thought I'd be able to maybe find some, Tom Waits, Hoyt Axton niche, but I can't act. They want you in acting. They want you to do it real calm. I start at 9 and go up to 12,
I think you can act because, in my opinion, anyone who's a comedian is acting, because the onstage persona of the comedian generally has nothing to do with who the person is when they're off stage. It's usually the more manic they are on stage, the more soft-spoken they are. Like Gilbert Gottfried, for example, if you ever heard his real voice or real speech.
I was a big fan of Gilbert. Gilbert is one of the reasons I'm not on social media, because I would say something and get in trouble. In fact, part of my whole act is I would be too soon, too much too soon. Right? I want to be on the edge. Right? I worship Richard Pryor and Bill Hicks. I want that's who I want to be. The living Foghorn Leghorn version of them. That's my goal.
So getting a documentary made about you is a big career milestone unto itself. But is there anything that you're still hoping to accomplish within your entertainment career?
No, I don't think so. I made like 10 albums. I've played all over the world and done all kinds of things. No, there's not like I tried to write a book. The original, I had a book idea that and I think that was going to be called the Mojo Manifesto. But I can't write. I got to talk. When I write, I start writing like I'm in the eighth grade, essay or something. And I also we're going to do a feature film called The Citizen Mojo that Kiki Friedman wrote the script for. Most of the script went up our nose, but that never came to fruition either. This will have to serve, as the capstone. It's got the official version. I can't believe. You would think, oh, Mojo Nixon, the documentary about him, it's going to be all fucked up like Mojo. I saw Mojo playing by college and puked on my girlfriend. That kind of thing. And then it's made by his bass player. Well, the bass player don't know nothing about making no documentary. There ain't no Scorsese. But somehow the movie doesn't suck, and tells a little story and has a little what do they call it? Narrative arc.
Yeah.
You know, it's actual, you know, if you're a fan of Mojo and you see it, you go, hey, I dig that. That's good. You know,
it makes you even more likable if that was possible.
You know, so, some of the stuff in the documentary is true.
Well, down to the last two questions here before I let you go, because you've been generous with your time. The first one is, did you ever have a run-in with David Lee Roth? And I say that not just as a person writing a book about David Lee Roth, but also in terms of you seem to have all the same interests as him, even though his public persona says otherwise.
No, I think, you know, he's another loudmouth, you know, loudmouth entertainer who can't sing. That's what me and David Lee Roth have in common. Right. You know, he sells the song, you know, but he's not really, those other guys are singing melodies and notes and, you know, Beatle-esque stuff. But yeah, no, I always loved David Lee Roth. And we met once when he was doing a tour, and, you know, it's kind of the Battle of the Motor Mouths. I think he won. You know, it's kind of, recently I did a thing with Hank Jr., another Battle of the Psychos. But Hank Jr.'s calmed down a little bit. So he gave me a couple of these. I can take it. Right, I can take a punch. You can make fun of Mojo. I'll just jump right back on your ass.
The last question I got for you, I can't think of a song before your Don Henley song that was that outward. Yes, I understand satire, but that publicly did not love the Eagles. And now people quote their hatred of the Eagles or dislike for the Eagles through the movie The Big Lebowski. I'm curious if the writer of Big Lebowski ever gave you a nod and went, thank you for that?
No, who wrote that? Was that the Coen brothers wrote it, or?
I thought so. I thought it was.
No, I don't know. But look, great minds think alike. You know, here's the thing: the Eagles, you know, the Eagles are the commercial version of the Flying Burrito Brothers in the progressive country scene of the early '70s. But what really irked me is that they were essentially the country monkeys, you know, of the '70s, who eventually became a rock band when they got Joe Walsh and Don Felder in there. And they're country monkeys of the '70s. Then Don Henley, it was at the Grammys. He was at the Grammys. He won a Grammy for Boys of Summer or something. And he was just so fucking sanctimonious, you know, and he was acting like he was somehow the new Bob Dylan. He was in the fucking Eagles, the country monkeys of the '70s. You know, but then the backside of that song is he showed up at the Hole in the Wall in Austin, Texas. He showed up at the Hole in the Wall and sang Don Henley Must Die with me and the Toad Lickers. Shocked the living shit out of me.
Yeah, that reminds me about Debbie Gibson, who you also wrote about, when she came up on stage to do I Want to Destroy You with the Circle Jerks at CBGB. It's one of those full career kind of moments, but you did it first yet again.
Yes. What is the line in Big Lebowski? Is he just say the Eagles fucking suck? Is that what he says?
I believe so. And then he talks about how much he likes Creedence Clearwater Revival instead.
Oh, yes. Clearly.
Hey, I've done two Eagles members interviews, and they were both horrible. So Mojo, thank you for the many years of great entertainment. Still looking forward to what's to come, whether it's you on the radio, coming back in the music career, whatever it is. And congrats on your documentary. It's so great that we get to learn more about you, the human being.
Aaron, thanks a lot for having me on, man.
Paltrocast.